Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the Diz Quiz. As always, I'm your host, Tommy T, with an amazing Disney trivia game show coming your way in just a moment. But before we get to that, just my usual word to follow, to subscribe. If you're enjoying the Diz Quiz content, if you like what I do, it really means a lot and helps me grow when you engage with the content. I'm hoping to get a couple more shows out between now and the end of the year, and then the plan is to hit 2019 hard with some more consistent Diz Quiz content, and you can motivate that to all happen. You can help things grow by liking, subscribing, sharing, all that stuff that everybody always asks you to do, but we ask you to do it because it does help the channel, helps the show grow, and it means a lot to me personally. So I do appreciate your engagement, your following along. So without further ado, let's get you some more Disney trivia fun. Let's get into the show and meet this episode's contestants. So it is time to meet this episode's contestants. We have Matt and Brian. Matt of the Imagineer podcast and Brian, the Disney Caveman, are here to play some Disney trivia. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves for those of you that might have missed their previous episodes. Brian, we'll start off with you because you're on my screen right now.
Okay, I'm Brian Crawford. I live in San Antonio, Texas, so I'm like a 2-day drive between both domestic parks, which is nice. I work for the Air Force. I'm an active duty officer in the Air Force. Been doing that for about 15 years. Looking forward to retirement and getting a Disney job, maybe drive a Main Street vehicle or something. Awesome. On social media, yeah, it would be cool. And I just have an Instagram account called Disney Caveman, where right now I share mostly my endeavors in the Disney live action film arena. So I'm a big fan of those films. So I'm trying to watch all of the theatrically released, the domestically released from the beginning of time to 1981. I think that's my cutoff point.
Start to get rough around there.
Well, it's rough. There's some really good ones and there's some not so really good ones. Yeah. So pretty much if I nod off 3 or 4 times, then that's. But for the most part, they're pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been following along with those, and it's always fun to get the updates as you go through them.
Yeah. Watching Charlie and the Angel. I'll try to finish that up
I've never even heard of that one.
It's Fred McMurray's last Disney film. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Fred McMurray, Cloris Leachman, and Kurt Russell's actually in that one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's me.
All right, and then we've got your opponent for this episode is Matt. Matt, why don't you tell us about you and the Imagineer podcast and everything?
Yeah, so I'm Matt Kroll. I run the Imagineer podcast, our podcast dedicated to all things Disney. Cover the movies, the parks, mostly Walt Disney World, since that's where a lot of Disney fans sort of gravitate towards, and myself included. Love the Disney parks, and especially Walt Disney World growing up there. Or growing up going there, I should say. But yeah, we have a podcast once every 2 weeks, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, technically on YouTube, but not incredibly active on YouTube. We have podcasts on just about any podcast channel out there. So excited to be back on the show. Awesome.
Well, thanks for being here with me to both of you. 2 former contestants. I thought you guys would match up well against each other, so we're going to get
nervous.
Into some Disney trivia here. So just before we started recording, Brian mentioned he's nervous. He's going to pull out some Walt Disney World history, which is not his strong suit, but actually our first category today is going to be Disneyland. History-ish. It's history, it's general Disneyland knowledge and multiple choice type stuff. But before we get into that, just go over the format real quickly for you guys, if you forget, for anybody out there who might forget or be first-time watchers. So we've got 2 rounds here. This episode will be the first round, and those questions are multiple choice. Each question will have 2 possible answers, and those are worth 1 point each. And then the next episode will be part 2, and those are worth 2 points each, but no more multiple choice. And then if you get the question wrong, the opponent has a chance to steal that question for the points. So that's where things get really swingy back and forth. But we're going to start it off with the first round, which are 1-point questions. And like I said, the first round is going to be Disneyland multiple choice questions. So, history is a bunch of them, but also just a little bit of general Disneyland knowledge. So, Brian, how do you feel about that? Does that sound like it plays into you a little bit?
Well, I grew up in California, but we only went once every couple of years.
All right,
advantage here.
I think your knowledge. I think both of you will play well in these. I think these are a little bit easier compared to the stuff we got coming up later. So let's start off with you, Brian, here with some Disneyland multiple choice. You ready?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to learn. That's the fun part about this is always learn a lot.
There you go. That's what it's all about too. I mean, the game is fun, but it's also about getting the Disney knowledge out there and having some fun with it. So, all right. Well, the first question for you here is going to be, where was Walt Disney when he had the idea to make Disneyland? Was he at Pacific Park or Griffith Park? Which park was he at?
Well, he was sitting on a park bench in Griffith Park in front of the carousel watching his girls ride around in circles.
There you go, yeah. And he said, why aren't I on that thing? Why can't I have something fun to do? Yeah.
Why can't I be on that thing?
Exactly.
Literally my post a few days ago.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
It's funny because I wrote these questions a couple weeks ago. So
I had a video of the carousel. I'm like, this is where he was.
That's really funny.
I think that park bench is on Main Street in Disneyland.
Did they move it to Disneyland? Oh, I didn't realize that.
I don't know if it's the actual bench. I think it is.
Right.
But I'll have to go back to Disneyland and check that out.
At least something from Griffith Park or something they brought over.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so next question for you, Brian. Which Disneyland attraction is longer? Is it Pirates of the Caribbean or Splash Mountain?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Pirates of the Caribbean or Splash Mountain?
And this is on average. It's on. Sometimes those boats get backed up, but
if there's no backup.
If there's no backup, which one's longer?
I'm gonna say Pirates of the Caribbean is a bit longer. I think that's 17 minutes.
I got a couple different numbers, but the ones I went with were 15 for Pirates and only 9 for Splash.
Oh. Okay.
I was kind of surprised how big of a difference there are because Splash feels longer. I think Splash might be. And somebody can tell me if I'm wrong on this, or you guys might be able to tell me, but when I go on Splash Mountain in Disneyland, it feels like those boats move faster. I think they're smaller.
They do.
They're the single file ones as opposed to Walt Disney World has the 2 rows. So one's only 9 minutes. My guess is Disney World's is longer.
I think so.
And
they get you on and get you out at Disneyland. That's one thing I noticed.
But then Disney World has the shorter Pirates because it's missing some of those scenes there.
Oh, it's much shorter in Disney World. I think it's only 7 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're kind of flipped for Disney World. But for Disneyland, the answer is Pirates of the Caribbean. All right, how about this little piece of Disneyland trivia or Disneyland history? Disneyland today is open 24/7. Not 24/7. It's open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But there once was a time where it was only open 5 days a week. Was it closed on Mondays and Tuesdays or on Wednesdays and Thursdays?
Disneyland was closed on Mondays and Tuesdays back in the early days. I don't know when they switched to 7 days a week.
Yeah, that is correct. I believe it was in the 80s they switched.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, all the way into the 80s it was closed 2 days a week. And which is hard to believe now. I mean, if Disneyland was closed, there'd be riots in Anaheim.
No more 3-day weekends.
We got to clean up, so we're close to.
Well, they did all the refurb and clean up on those 2 days.
Yeah, I wonder if things got refurbed quicker when they had all day of 2 days of park closed to do those in. But they're pretty good now doing that stuff overnight and whatnot. Mm-hmm. All right, next question for Brian. What is the name of the god you encounter on Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland? And Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye? Do I have that right?
That's right.
Zara or Mara?
Mara.
It is Mara.
Yeah. Do not look into the eyes of Mara.
Yes, one of my favorite all-time rides for sure.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Zara. Okay, and the last one for you on this round. This might be a layup, maybe not. Which attraction opened first? Is it the Country Bear Jamboree or the Enchanted Tiki Room?
Disneyland, the Enchanted Tiki Room opened up in 1963, and I think the Country Bear Jamboree didn't even open up until after Walt was gone.
That is true.
Yeah.
1972.
72?
Yep. That was an
2
easy
years
one,
before
but...
I was born. Whoa. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
that's my
good
favorite
job, Brian.
attraction at
You
Disney.
ran. That's your favorite attraction? Is which one?
The Tiki Room.
Tiki Room's your favorite?
Yeah. That's my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to have the classic version, or at least a form of it, back in Walt Disney World, where I visit most often. So.
Yeah, it's still fun there. I love the one in Disney World. It's unique and different.
Yeah. And they shortened it a little bit when they did that the change back, which might be for the better for modern audiences. there are a couple
Iago going down in flames and bringing back.
Quite literally.
Matt might know that story. I don't. There's the rumor is a cast member intentionally set Iago on fire.
I haven't heard the story,
okay.
So I couldn't tell you. But I feel like even if I did know, I'd have to keep it the secrecy.
I'll have to ask. I don't know if you guys know Rich Stork. I had him on. He does the One Little Spark podcast. He might have a story or two about that.
Oh.
He lives down there, and he's tapped in pretty good. So I might have to ask him one day.
That's just a rumor. I'm spreading rumors on your show.
Well, let's call it a myth that's fun to buy into.
Yeah.
But all right. So Brian ran that category. Like I said, I think this one is more of a fun, easier category. We'll get into some tougher stuff a little bit later. But great job, Brian. Matt, do you think you got what it takes to keep?
I don't know. I knew all 5 of his.
You
so
knew those.
Let's see how we do with this one.
But there's a trend in this show where people, they know the other set of questions, and then when it comes to their turn, they don't.
I know these two. We'll see.
All right, well, let's start off with this one. Did a Disneyland opening day ticket cost $1 or $1.50?
This is so specific.
Well, you got two possible answers.
Yeah.
$1 or $1.50.
I honestly don't know this one, so it's going to be a guess. I'll say $1.
You got it. You made the right choice. It was $1 only. And only 50 cents for children. Children 50 cents. Which today in Disneyland will buy you nothing.
Nothing.
I don't think it's a single
penny.
You could probably get the crust
not even
pennies,
the pressed penny. Yeah, because you have to have the penny also. So if you have 50 cents, it's not even enough.
I won't get you a crust penny.
Oh, man.
All right, next question for you, Matt. Which of these celebrities worked at Disneyland when he was young? Was it Steve Martin or Martin Short? Best friends?
I believe it was Steve Martin.
It was Steve Martin who worked at the Magic Shop on Main Street. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you can see Martin Short in several Disney attractions over the years, but only after he was, a celebrity and everything did we see him. Not as an up and comer.
And I think Robin Williams also worked Jungle Cruise, and he was fired his first day.
Yeah, that's another rumor that I've come across that enough.
He took an hour-long Jungle Cruise or something.
Oh my god, that's gotta be the best Jungle Cruise of all time.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Oh, man. All right,
Robin.
Next one for Matt. Which of these characters / movies had their own parade at Disneyland at one point? Tarzan or Mulan?
Had their own parade.
Had a parade.
Well, I know that Tarzan had its own show at Animal Kingdom. I'll say Tarzan.
It was actually Mulan.
Really?
So what was it?
I would have guessed Tarzan too.
Yeah.
Give me the harder questions here.
I would have got that one wrong.
See, that's what happens sometimes. Yeah, so back in the 90s, they were doing a lot of movie-specific parades, both at Disneyland and at Disney MGM Studios at the time. There was an Aladdin parade that was really great. There was a Toy Story parade. I think it was the Lion King parade, and then I think one of the last ones of this run was the Mulan parade, which ran starting in the summer of 1998. And yeah, these were kind of lower budget parades, but they were fun. And there was I'm trying to pull up. I meant to put this in, but I wanted to get the actual name of this parade because Disney can never call anything just the Mulan. You know what? Parade. I think this one was just called the Mulan parade because I know
I'll tell my daughter about that.
Yeah, does she love Mulan?
She's got a close relationship with Mulan down at Epcot.
Oh, very nice.
She's a friend of Mulan down there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. That
is awesome. Well, we might see even more Mulan coming through the parks when the live-action movie drops.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And is that 2020 maybe? I think they have that one slated for.
I think so.
All right, so here's another one for you, Matt.
Myself, it's 4 and 5 now.
All right, so which of these attractions was not in Disneyland on opening day? Was it Pinocchio's Daring Journey or Peter Pan's Flight?
I'll say Pinocchio was not there.
You are correct. Pinocchio's Daring Journey didn't open until 1980. I should have had this note in my notes as well. It was, I have it up on my second monitor, 1983. Part of the new Fantasyland. Yeah, it's one of those ones that always is weird to me because it does have the classic dark ride feel, but didn't come until the 80s.
That was at the Fantasyland makeover.
Yeah, the new Fantasyland where they did a bunch of stuff during that whole refurb there.
Yeah.
And then one last question for Matt. And this one, I think if you picture it in your head, it'll come to you. But does the Disneyland Railroad travel counterclockwise or clockwise?
This one travels clockwise.
It does. Maybe one of you can tell me this. Do any of the Disney railroads around the world travel counterclockwise? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, of the ones that even have it, because
not all of them have it.
Shanghai doesn't. Tokyo Disneyland doesn't. But
Paris doesn't.
They do have a railroad. I don't know about Paris.
Oh, Paris does. What am I saying? I was just there. Yeah, Paris does, and that does move clockwise.
Clockwise. So.
And Hong Kong moves the same direction too, I think. Do they have a train?
I don't know. I don't know, actually.
I was there last year.
Oh, you were there, but
17.
Huh.
I don't remember.
Well,
all I remember is Mystic Manor.
Comment. Yeah, Mystic Manor. I really want to. I want to go on all the haunted mansions, but with that one most of all, probably. All right, so after our first category, Brian has the lead 5-4, but we've got lots more to play. So we go with the person who's behind first, give him a chance to catch up. So we're going to start with Matt again on this one. This category is all about the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Mostly about the Walt Disney World version, but some of these apply to multiple versions of them. And I'll be specific. I'll say for sure which one we're talking about. When we go into these. Most of them, again, about the Walt Disney World version.
I love how specific this is.
Ready? Well, I did all the broad categories kind of my first set run-up, so it's like, we'll do Epcot, we'll do this. And then it's like, I already did Epcot, so now I have to do things that are more specific.
And this is a great attraction.
Yeah.
My
favorite one there.
So now the pressure's on.
Too?
These are true or false questions, this
true
one.
Or false? Okay.
Yep. So, Matt, here's the first one for you. So, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World is 199 feet tall because that's how many Twilight Zone episodes there are.
That is false.
That is false.
Yeah. If that were true, though, I'm like, I don't know how many episodes. I know that's not the reason, but I don't know.
There are 156 episodes, actually.
Okay, so not quite as many.
Is that how tall the tower is?
It is 199 feet tall, and the actual reason is Florida state law says that any buildings over 200 feet need to have a red blinking light on them for plane safety. And so that is why Tower and Expedition Everest and a few other things are conveniently in the 199 feet neighborhood. Just coincidentally. It doesn't nothing to do with that law.
And Everest is 199 and a half. It's got 6 inches on Tower.
Everest
it to be
is just
a little taller.
Well, it's Everest. I mean, it's got to be the tallest thing, right? You can't. You can't have something taller than Mount Everest. It just wouldn't be right. Okay, next one here. The color palette of the Tower of Terror, again in Disney World, was chosen to blend in with the Morocco pavilion in Epcot.
That's true.
That is true also. If you stand kind of, and it's a couple different spots actually in Epcot, you can very clearly see the Tower of Terror in the background and lining up with Morocco. But, if you're not looking for it and you just take a quick glance, you probably wouldn't even know it's there.
Mm-hmm. Genius stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well thought out. But yeah.
Now, I actually... I want to change this question now because we just ruined it. I don't know, but you know what? You knew it. You brought it up, Matt. So I have to give it to you because you've. If I had given the answer away previously, I would have given a different question. But because you volunteered the answer,
I predicted what you were going to ask.
So you had this piece of knowledge in your mind. So let me just ask the question: true or false? The Tower of Terror is the tallest attraction in Walt Disney World.
That's false.
That is false.
That is funny.
That is really funny.
I read your mind.
We'll just try to stay quiet between questions. Now.
Yeah.
I know, right? I mean, the discussion between questions is one of my favorite parts, but sometimes it kind of ruins. You know what, though? This next one, let's try to limit the discussion after it because something could come up that ruins a future question.
Fair enough.
So, true or false, the Tower of Terror is based on a real episode of The Twilight Zone?
True.
That is false. There is no Tower of Terror episode of the Twilight Zone series. And let's leave it at that.
All right. I misunderstood how you're asking the question, but fair enough.
Okay.
I think Brian knows what I'm thinking of.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll revisit this. Let's get to the next question, and then we'll get to that a little later. Last one for you, Matt, on Tower of Terror trivia. Imagineers made sure Rod Serling was not seen smoking his signature cigarette in the pre-show film. True or false?
That's true. That
is true. Out of respect to, Walt Disney's lung cancer, which ultimately led to his death, they try whenever possible to not show smoking in Disney attractions. So, I think a little bit of CGI work and editing was done to make sure that he is not seen smoking a cigarette. So once again, a 4 out of 5 for Matt. So we're going to head over to Brian to see if he can keep up his pace or if any of these will trip him up.
I don't know. Okay.
All right, so first question here. True or false? When the vehicle in the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, Walt Disney World again, moves out of the elevator shaft, there is no actual track. Is that true or false?
There's no track. I want to say it's trackless. It's kind of a magnetic type of movement. There's something under the floor that guides the vehicle over to the drop shaft. So I'm going to say there's no track. So I guess that's true.
Yeah, there is a mechanism that guides it. It's same type of technology used in the Great Movie Ride and Ellen's Energy Adventure. Rest in peace to both attractions. But yeah, you can maybe consider it a track because it's a thing that maps out the path of the ride, but the wheels and everything are not attached to a track, so it is a trackless ride vehicle. Okay, next question here. True or false? There's a Disney Channel original movie based on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Is that true or false?
Steve Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst, right? True.
True. Anything live action Disney movie.
I haven't seen that though yet.
I haven't seen it either. And Matt, was this what you were thinking previously?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I think I know what Matt's thinking.
So what were you thinking, Matt? This was the one I thought might come up, but so what were you thinking?
No. It was the fact that they used a real Twilight Zone episode for the pre-show.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah,
they did. It's
the way you put the question is fine. I just kind of
So I just meant was there a Tower of Terror episode? So all right, no problem. I just want to make sure because I've had a couple times where there's like things have been like a little bit ambiguous, so I want to make sure that was clear.
That was the longest intro for a Twilight Zone episode. The one that they used for the town.
That makes sense. I know that there's a cut. I know that in the Twilight Zone episode, he says, "This is you may recognize as a map of the United States of America," but like in this one, "This is you may recognize as a maintenance service elevator," and it cuts right on that maintenance. Which, like, you wouldn't really, if you were writing the script, you probably wouldn't put the word maintenance service elevator, but because of the M syllable, they did the cut. They wrote that word in there. All right, next one for Brian. In that pre-show video, speaking of which, there's a little girl holding a stuffed Donald Duck doll. True or false?
I think it's a Mickey Mouse doll. False.
You got it. It is a era-specific Mickey Mouse doll that she is holding. All right, next.
Or Donald. Donald never gets any love.
I know, right? He gets the short end of the stick. All right, next one. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World takes place in 1928. In that pre-show, the year is 1928. True or false?
I'm going to say false. I think it's a little later than that.
You got it. Hollywood, 1939.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't remember the year.
I wasn't going to be too mean. I was thinking of saying 38 or 39. That would have been like just too cruel. So I'll change the decade. And then the last one for Brian here. Elevator manufacturer Otis helped engineer the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror ride vehicle. True or false?
Otis.
So Otis is they make most elevators. Like you've probably seen them.
I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know this one. How many different elevator manufacturers are there? I know in Japan, Mitsubishi does a lot of them.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'm going to say false. It's got to be somebody different.
It is actually true. They did help out. I mean, Disney went to the experts, They said... Yeah. And Otis had a tough time because they said, "Wait, you want this to drop fast? Like we do slow elevators that feel comfortable." So,
okay.
But just creating a mechanism that just kind of controlled that Otis was a consulting company on this ride. So, pretty interesting stuff. And
can't get them all.
I'll have to look if there's any Otis logos anywhere, or if I don't know if you've ever been on the elevator they use for wheelchairs and stuff there in the middle. I'll have to see if that's an Otis brand elevator next time. I've only ridden that once when the ride broke down and they brought us right back up to ride again, which was actually kind of fun. But
I'll look for it.
Probably is.
It probably is, right? They probably was like, all right, you can build a regular one, but you got to help us with the scary one too. So that wraps up our first round here. We've got a score of Matt with 8, Brian ahead with 9. So like I always say, round 2, things change quickly. Those gaps shift by the question when we got stealing and everything. But we'll get into that in the next round, on the next episode. So why don't you guys pump your social media accounts, your podcast one more time. Brian, once again, starting off with you, where can folks follow you?
All right. You can follow me on Instagram at Disney Caveman. That's pretty much where I hang out. If you want to know anything about the old Disney live-action movies, just give me a follow and help me get over 4,100 followers. I've been stuck.
I'm stuck right around there also. So
I don't know why.
So yeah, follow Brian, get us up there.
Yeah, but listen to Matt's podcast. It rocks. So over to you.
Thank you.
And Matt, where can they find the Imagineer podcast?
So you can listen to the Imagineer podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and even YouTube. So there are a lot of different places you can listen. And then you can follow me at Imagineer Podcast, of course, on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook group, and then we have a Twitter page at Imagineer Audio. So be sure to check us out.
Fantastic. Follow both these guys on their respective accounts. And thanks so much for being here, guys. We'll see you in round 2 to round this thing out.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
So that does it for this episode of the Diz Quiz. Be sure to come back next week for part 2 and see if Matt or Brian will take the championship for this episode. Once again, if you do enjoy the Diz Quiz, liking and subscribing and sharing and letting people know that we're here does really mean a lot to me, and it helps the show grow. So I do appreciate each and every one of you out there who has been enjoying the Diz Quiz content so far. Until next time, I've been Tommy T. This has been the Diz Quiz, and we will see you real soon. Bye-bye.